Today, several regulatory advancements, including FDA approvals in lung cancer, CLL, and NHL, and data presented at the 2015 San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium. Hello and welcome to OncLive News Network. I'm Laura Jones. The FDA granted an accelerated approval to alectinib as a treatment for patients with metastatic ALK-positive non-small cell lung cancer following progression on crizotinib. The decision was based on objective response rates in two phase 2 clinical trials. In the first study, the objective response rate with alectinib was 38% by independent review and 46% by investigator assessment. The duration of response was 7.5 months. The median progression-free survival, although not yet mature, was 6.3 months. For the second trial, the objective response rates with alectinib were 44% by independent review and 48% by investigator assessment. The duration of response was 11.2 months. The median progression-free survival was 8.9 months. Also in lung cancer news, the FDA granted a priority review to crizotinib as a treatment for patients with ROS1-positive metastatic non-small cell lung cancer based on the impressive results from a phase 1 study. In the 50-patient study, treatment with crizotinib elicited an overall response rate of 72%, comprised of 3 complete responses and 33 partial responses. An additional 9 patients had stable disease as their best response for an overall disease control rate of 90%. The median progression-free survival with crizotinib was 19.2 months. At a median follow-up for overall survival of 16.4 months, the 12-month overall survival rate was 85%. The median had not yet been reached. Many treatment guidelines have already included crizotinib as an option for patients with ROS1 mutations. A final decision is expected from the FDA by April 2016. The FDA has approved a rapid infusion formulation of bendamustine hydrochloride for the treatment of patients with chronic lymphocytic leukemia or indolent B-cell non-Hodgkin lymphoma that has progressed during or within 6 months of treatment with rituximab or rituximab-containing regimen. The overall response rate with the drug in CLL was 59%, compared with 26% with chlorambucil. The median progression-free survival was 18 months versus 6 months with chlorambucil. In the NHL group, the overall response rate with the new bendamustine formulation in a single-arm study was 74%. The FDA approved uridine triacetate for the emergency treatment of adults and pediatric patients who had severe or life-threatening toxicities within 4 days of treatment of 5-FU or capecitabine. The decision was based on 2 open-label clinical studies that measured the 30-day survival rate of adult and pediatric patients who had either overdosed on treatment or were experiencing early-onset toxicities. Of those who overdosed, 97% treated with the drug were still alive after 30 days. Of those treated for toxicities, 89% were alive at 30 days. The approval marks the first emergency antidote for specific chemotherapies. Both trials showed that 33% of patients resumed chemotherapy within 30 days of being treated. The FDA granted clearance for the marketing of the DignaCap scalp cooling system, a computer-controlled device aimed to reduce the severity and frequency of hair loss in patients who receive neoadjuvant or adjuvant chemotherapy for breast cancer. The clearance is based on a multi-center FDA-approved clinical trial examining the effects of the scalp hypothermia system in 122 women with stage 1-2 breast cancer who were undergoing alopecia-inducing chemotherapy. The trial's primary endpoint was a self-assessment of hair loss. Results of the open-label, non-randomized study showed that more than 66% of the women who used the device lost less than 50% of their hair. In breast cancer news, the FDA granted a priority review to a supplemental new drug application for the CDK4/6 inhibitor palbociclib for use in combination with fulvestrant in pretreated patients with HR-positive, HER2-negative metastatic breast cancer. Pfizer announced that the priority review is based on findings from the phase 3 PALOMA-3 trial, in which adding palbociclib to standard fulvestrant more than doubled progression-free survival. Palbociclib also delayed disease progression by over 5 months. The progression-free survival benefit was observed regardless of menopause status and remained consistent across all pre-specified patient subgroups. And now, data from the 2015 San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium. Results from a follow-up analysis show that adding denosumab to an aromatase inhibitor not only helps to prevent fractures, it reduces the risk of recurrence and death in postmenopausal women with HR-positive breast cancer. In this Phase 3 trial, a 19% relative survival improvement was seen among women who had denosumab added to their standard therapy, suggesting that the agent should be recommended in this setting regardless of the patient's bone health status. Upfront treatment with the PD-L1 inhibitor atezolizumab plus nab-paclitaxel showed a confirmed objective response rate of 66.7% in patients with metastatic triple-negative breast cancer. In the Phase 1b study, atezolizumab plus nab-paclitaxel was explored across several lines of treatment regardless of PD-L1 status. Across the full trial, the overall response rate was 41.7%. In patients with PD-L1 positive triple-negative disease, the overall response rate was 77.8%, and the stable disease rate was 22.2%. The PD-1 inhibitor pembrolizumab had an overall response rate of 12% in PD-L1 positive patients with ER-positive, HER2-negative advanced breast cancer. At a median follow-up of 7.3 months, the overall response rate was comprised of all partial responses and no complete responses. The median time to response was 8 weeks, and the median duration of response had not yet been reached, ranging from 8.7 to more than 44 weeks. The results mark the second early-stage trial to show anti-tumor activity with pembrolizumab in breast cancer. Another checkpoint inhibitor, avelumab, demonstrated promising overall response rates for patients with PD-L1 positive metastatic breast cancer, particularly for those with triple-negative disease, according to findings from a Phase 1b study presented at the meeting. After a median follow-up of 10 months, the overall response rate in patients with PD-L1 expressing metastatic breast cancer was 33.3%. In patients with PD-L1 positive triple-negative breast cancer, the overall response rate was 44.4% with avelumab. More great coverage of the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium, including video interviews with experts in the field, can be found right here on onclive.com. Thanks so much for watching OncLive News Network. I'm Laura Jones. We'll see you next time.